The first book that I wrote that really made any traction was called Forefathers and Founding Fathers. And the roots of that are it's historic fiction. And the roots
Oh,
of
I love
it
that.
are when I was growing up, my dad told me that we had an ancestor who was always getting in trouble in the early colonies. And I thought, oh, that's going to be a fun story. So I started doing the
Yeah.
research and I found out that he was the co-founder of the Rhode Island colony back in the
Oh, that's cool.
1630s, and along with Roger Williams. And he was always getting in trouble because he believed in equal rights for women, and he believed that the Indians should uh, be allowed to negotiate for their own land, and he was sentenced to death a couple of times and beat in the public square a few times,
Wow.
but that's the way it was in the early colonies.
Yeah.
And so I wrote that book. It did really well, won a bunch of awards. Brown Books picked it up, and it's right behind me here. It's Forefathers and Founding Fathers, and it was a lot of fun to write. And I think the thing that we talked about already is it's all about storytelling. If you can figure out how to tell a story and keep the audience listening and engaged, the topic matter really doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's cool that you got to like research your own family and write from there. I've never thought to do that historical fiction wise. I've talked to my family. I saw some people they did that as like a family history book that was like a nonfiction book. But I don't know. I really like the historical fiction aspect. I had a great uncle that died in Iwo Jima and had like amazing stuff that people wrote about him in a magazine. They captured different letters and stuff that my grandma wrote a letter that was captured in one of these magazines, one of these military like journals. And then, but like the
Mhm.
things that they also said about him, he had like his whole article and stuff. So that's a really cool idea. I had never considered doing that.
That,
That's neat.
and Daniel, I think the term historical fiction, in my personal opinion, is a misnomer, but I
I
get
think so.
it.
Yeah.
The reality is, in my book, everything happened. But if you're going to tell it in story format, two people are sitting at a table and talking, and we don't know what Thomas Jefferson really said in a one-on-one conversation. So you make it up. The end
Yeah.
result is what happened, but it transitions from historic fact to historic fiction when you turn it into a story.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Even
I think myself.
though that really happened, it's still got the name fiction next to it.
Yeah. 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 No, it makes total sense. So I know I love the history and the historical fiction, but I definitely know that our audience members, I can hear some of them want me to ask in terms of what has gotten you into, writing stories such as Tachyon Tunnel and Tachyon Tunnel 2 in terms of time
Sure.
travel and science fiction.
Well, from an education perspective, I'm a scientist and an engineer. And from a personal perspective, I was a little kid who watched Neil and Buzz step on the moon, and I thought, man, I want to do that someday. And so you throw both of those into the blender, and what do you get? You get a sci-fi
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
fiction, and there are some interesting, in my opinion, anomalies. I love Star Trek and Star Wars, but when Star Trek travels, they do what's called warping space, and as a graduate student of physics, warping space takes an infinite amount of energy. And so Scotty may say the antimatter, blah 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 is the techno jargon, but I think that when we actually travel to distant stars and ultimately to distant galaxies, we're not going to do it by warping space.